Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this class on meditation. It's called Finding Your Seat. It is the first in a series of classes that is meant to teach you foundational aspects of how to hold yourself in meditation and how to develop certain principles to evolve your practice. So as the name implies, in this one, it's really about your posture and sitting. And I want to ask a question before we get deeper into this. How many of you meditate? Raise a hand if you're a meditator. Actually, with this, sorry, actually, I can't see anybody with this setup. 1 second. Okay. All right, one more time. Meditators, raise your hand. Cool. Plenty of you. Consistent. So I guess that's people who meditate consistently. How many of you at least tried meditation? I guess those of you who have consistently done it, go ahead and raise your hands again. Cool. So that's pretty much everybody. And then the question I have to follow up for that is, how many of you have experienced pain in your body when you're meditating? Yeah. Some of you, most of you. And then, has that pain ever prevented you from wanting to meditate or stopped you from meditating in that moment? Yes, no, show of hands. Okay, lots of people there. Okay, great. So that's actually the purpose of this class, is to focus on specifically low back pain. I know a lot of people when they're meditating tend to experience that, and it becomes so intense that instead of whatever meditative practice they're engaging in, the focus becomes on all their attention goes into their body and the pain in their body. So this class is meant to give you tools and techniques to make pain over time slowly go away as you practice these. And then hopefully there'll be techniques that you can take into your life as well. And if you have low back pain, even when you're not meditating. And by practicing these and engaging in these and getting stronger in your core muscles and stronger in your back, lower back, the hope is that your meditative practice can go out seamlessly and whatever practices you're engaging in are more accessible because the pain in your body is not screaming over them. So I'm going to start with going into different ways to sit. And then from there, I'm going to go into certain specific techniques for your anatomical structure and how those can help improve things. And then, of course, yes, we will get into a meditation. And that's basically what today's program is for you. So we're going to start with different ways to sit. So right now you can see I'm sitting on a zafu or a meditation pillow. I'll get into that later. I want to first come down for a second and show you, actually, I don't know if you can see it right now. Let me back up a little. I'm going to show you basically various ways to hold your legs while you're sitting. So you have a lot of different options as to where you're sitting. I'm sure most of you are sitting in chairs right now. Again, you can use things like zafus or elevated pillows, and then you can sit just on the ground. So here's a few different ways to sit on the ground that could help release the pressure on your lower back. So the first is called Ardha Siddhasana, or the half exalted pose. And what you're doing is you're taking your heel, putting it right at your perineum. And go ahead and try this if you'd like. If not, you can go ahead and just watch the demo. And then you just take the other foot and put it right in front. And so this one's a little bit easier on the hips than some of the other seated postures. The second is Siddhasana. And that's just the exact same posture, but then you take this in front foot, and instead of having it lying down safely in front of you, you just put it on your thigh, like so. And you can do it in many different ways. Some people like to push it against the thigh, and then others like to leave it open, which also helps open up the hips. And you can do this with either foot leading, so just like I'm doing it with the right foot next to the perineum and the left foot on my thigh, Likewise, I could just very easily do like so. And then again, foot right kind of underneath the perineum. And then this one here, or like this. I see someone is asking a question possibly, but I cannot, I actually unfortunately cannot see the question. So if you do have any questions while this is going on, just please feel free to unmute yourself and let them fly. If it's just a commentary about the posture, then by all means, keep typing it in the chat. So that's a couple of different seated postures. Another one that I'm sure you all know very well is what they call Sukhasana, or easy pose, or as we in, yeah, go ahead.
It's a little, that comment was that it's a little hard to see actually your lower part of your body. Can you tilt the camera a little so we can actually see your legs?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, again, I was sorry about the technical difficulty. My previous camera setup was not being cooperative. How is that? Is that better? Maybe what I'll do is I'll scoot a little bit back. Can you see this now? Good? Like so? Can I get someone to
maybe a little bit more down, Sunil?
A bit more down?
Yeah, a little bit more down.
Sorry.
Top of your pants area.
Say it again.
You were kind of cutting down, like we couldn't really see your legs and definitely not your feet. At least I couldn't.
Okay. Just keep scooting back until eventually they're in the picture. Is this better? Good?
Yeah, except your
Yeah.
feet.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for your patience. All right. Now back to some demonstrations. So for those previous ones, I'm just going to let them be. Watch them on the recording. I know they're not the best camera placement, but we'll just move on for the sake of going with things. So then there's also Sukhasana, or easy pose, or sometimes what they say, sitting Indian style, right? So that one is like so. Just, I think you all know that one quite well. And then of course you have half lotus and full lotus. And just because of some of the technical issues, I'm not going to go into showing you that. I want to just move on with everything else that we have to cover today. So there's a reason I brought the zafu, or sorry, the zafu. And that's because when you are experiencing low back pain, one really easy way to help fix that is by just elevating your hips. And so by doing so, you're allowing for the natural curve in the spine to elongate. You're decompressing the lumbar, and that's just letting your body sit very naturally in a erect seated position while not having to engage as much with your muscles, which might be a little bit weak, which is causing the back pain in the first place. And another way to do the same, have the same experience while not being, while not having access to a zafu, is in your chair. So instead of sitting at the back, where you have your back touching the back of the chair, that can create an anterior tilt, which actually will, over time, create, again, the weakness in that lumbar and the muscles around the lumbar. So you'll want to just scoot to the front of your chair. And that's another way to engage with this, where you're really focusing on strengthening your erector spinae and the muscles in your back that hold up the spine, while also engaging them in a way that's supportive of the pelvis and lumbar connection. Are we clear on that? Cool. So the next thing to say about all of that is that really, as you start to engage with different ways to hold your body, there's just the best way to really start to make your body more comfortable from pain is to be engaging with your abdomen and to be engaging with your back muscles and getting them stronger over time, which means having a yoga practice, having a Pilates practice. These are like surefire ways to make sure that you just on your own are not feeling the pain without having to even think about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you some techniques that will help you go into practice as those muscles are developing. And these should hopefully accelerate the development of those muscles. So when you've got your seat, whether that's on the ground or at the edge of your chair, I encourage you to engage with these techniques with me. So the first thing you're going to want to do is feel your sit bones firmly on the seat. And then you're just going to try to rock it a little bit and just try to notice, where is it that I feel my sit bones most firmly? Like, where do I feel real contact with the surface I'm sitting on? And you're going to want like a somewhat hard surface, which is why I'm using a Zuffa and not just sitting on something incredibly soft like the carpet, because I want that feedback. So hopefully the seat that you've chosen gives you enough feedback that you can notice as you keep rocking back and forth. Where is it that most intense contact? And then when you found it, what you're going to want to do is push your sit bones down. Push your sit bones down into that seat. And then slowly, with that pushing, your spine on its own should start to naturally lengthen and rise. And you can even engage with that process by like very carefully noticing what's happening with your abdomen and the muscles in the abdominis, and see, are they engaging with what's happening in your spine? So that's the first technique, pushing down with your sit bones into the chair or into the seat that you have chosen. The second one is you almost want to be like pulling your spine back. Lots of times we sit a little forward in our body. And if you just try to close your eyes and notice the physical sensation of really remembering your spine is quite far back there in your body. And as you start to pull your spine back so that it's in line with the pelvis and the back of your body, that should also start to create a more natural lift in the body. And see if you notice that as you start to pull your spine further back, what's happening. Okay, that's the second technique, pulling the spine back. The third technique is again going to be engaging the abdomen a little bit by changing and noticing shifts in your anatomical structure. So from here, you want to basically take your rib cage and almost think like you're tilting it forward. So like the front of your rib cage is coming forward and the back of your rib cage is going up. Try that, see what happens. Notice what else your body's engaging with as you're doing that. And you might notice, at least for me, when I do that, it creates a natural tucking of the chin. And we'll get into that later, and especially in later classes in this series. Next, you want to be engaging the sternum. And so the sternum, oftentimes when we think about lifting our chest, we push it out. Rather than pushing it out, think of lifting the sternum up towards the top of your head. And if you can, try to be engaging in those other techniques. So as a reminder, the first one is make sure that you're pushing down with your sit bones. And as you do that, try to pull back with your spine to the back of your body. Take the front of your ribs, rotate them forward, and the back of your ribs come up. You want to be lifting the sternum up. Good. And next, you want to be opening and spreading the collarbone. So think of your shoulders and notice what your shoulders are doing right now. can you widen them while maintaining this very erect, austere posture that you're creating? And then so the next and final technique goes to the top of the head. And so I mentioned you might be noticing a natural tucking of the chin as you've been engaging these other techniques. What you want to do next is continue to lift up your cranium while noticing that tucking and maintaining the tucking. And so to do that, you want to be almost thinking, and you can even take your hands a little bit here. You want to be thinking like you have donkey ears. And so just take your hands, take your thumbs, take them to the top of your lobes and just almost like get some traction where it feels like you're pushing your head up by lifting your ears and making yourself have really long, lengthy donkey ears. And when you feel like you have a sense of what that feels like in your body, go ahead and put your hands down. And then we'll go over again the different techniques that you're using to help keep your spine straight without that back pain. So again, pushing gently and firm, but firmly into your seat with your sit bones, pulling your spine back to the back of your body, rotating your rib cage so that the front ribs come down into the core and the back ribs go up, lifting the sternum, spreading the collarbones, and then lifting your ears to the top of your head as if they were long donkey ears getting pulled up. And I'll just say that you might lose connection to these over time. You might be focused on one and lose one connection to another. That's okay. You'll notice it on your own. And when you do, just be curious and say, okay, what was it? How do I engage with this thing again? The entire reason these techniques exist is for you to use them as ways to play with and engage with your physical body with what's happening right here, right now. Okay, so I know that takes a bit of attention, so we're going to come to a little bit of a rest before we go into the full meditation. And I'm going to just see if anybody has any questions in terms of the technique. And again, since I'm in a place where I can't see the chat right now, if you do have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and come on and ask them. I'll give it a few seconds, so if no one has questions, just giving people the opportunity to have that space. But if there is no questions, shortly in a little bit, I'll move on to the meditation. Okay, I think you guys are already maybe a little bit in the meditation. Great, so this meditation is going to be very, very lightly guided, just to remind you of some of these techniques. But really, the thing I want you to be focused on is your own comfort. And so again, the only reason these techniques exist is to help you find comfort within your own body. And if comfort and using a technique means I'm in too much pain, I'm going to just lie down for the rest of this meditation, that's totally fine. The entire reason we engage with these techniques is to stretch the edge of what is comfortable. And you want to do that in a slow process where, like, if pushing down and elevating your spine by pushing down on your sit bones is a little bit too much of a shock to the system or too aggressive, again, go slow with it and let yourself hold your seat for as long as you can. If in the past you've been able to hold it for about 3 minutes before you start to feel pain, try for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And then It's okay to like just take undulations, do what you need to do to move your body. The entire reason this meditation exists is, again, for you to find comfort. And here are techniques to help with that process. Okay, so if there's no questions, we will go into it. And we'll be doing this for about 4 minutes. So we do about a 4-minute meditation of just, again, being silent together and light reminders of these techniques. All right, with that, go ahead and close your eyes and we'll begin. So just connect to your breath and connect to the seat you've established. And remember, what were those techniques? Can you remember them without my specific explicit instruction? As you push your sit bones down into your seat, do you feel that rise in your spine? As you take your spine back into the back of your body, what else are you noticing in your body? What other sensations come up? And then as you engage your abdomen, as you bring those front floating ribs down towards your pelvis, and as the back ribs go up, are you noticing more space in your kidneys? Are you noticing a widening of your sacrum? Just notice what comes up for you. And as you lift your sternum, are you able to maintain your seat? Are you able to keep the spine in the back of your body? As you spread your collarbones, what are you noticing in your chest? Do your lungs feel like they have more room to breathe? Does your heart feel more open, expansive, and connected to your body? Is your chin tucked? Not because you chose to tuck it, but because the other shifts in your body have created it on its own. What's happening in your upper back and in your neck as you lift your cranium up as if you had donkey ears? Can you stay fully connected to your body and remember to breathe? And coming back now. If that took some effort, go ahead and just relax. And if it did take effort, notice how much. Was it very difficult? Was it just a little bit difficult? Do these feel like things you can engage with in the future? And slowly teach your anatomical structure how to support itself. And taking your time to come back, I'm going to open up the classroom for a few people to share their experience. And just, yeah, say what that was like for you. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to share, or you can also, of course, type in the chat. Again, I can't see the chat, but I'll get back to it after the recording is completed.
I'd like to share.
Yeah, please.
I thought it was really interesting. Like the sensations of it were really interesting. The relationship between each piece also very important. Like I could feel like if I missed like one of the elements, then it was off. It was really off. What I thought was interesting was that it wasn't without pain per se, but it was like on the verge of, like on the edge of pain, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah.
And it felt that it was, I don't know that I could sustain, like now today, I don't know that I could sustain it for very long. But I could totally feel how if you worked at this consistently, then it would become kind of second nature, and some of the pain that comes from just engaging a certain muscle would go away, contrary to the pain that I usually feel when I have to stand in that way, like by, you know, meditating or anything, which is basically I can't, you know, I just, it's not bearable. Like I always have something to support my back when I meditate, because it's just like, otherwise I can't meditate. And I thought it was really subtle and very interesting how it engages your attention while also letting it free to, you know, it's like, it's not taking all of your attention. It's not like your meditation doesn't have to become focusing on that.
Right.
All right, that's it.
That was beautiful. Thank you for the share, Laura. I'll just say in response to that, that I used to have a lot of pain, which is how I started to explore some of this. I couldn't sit for 5 minutes without having agonizing pain. And then I started taking some of the techniques I was exploring in yoga and Tadasana and started to apply them to my seat and try different approaches to them. And then slowly, really over the course of 2 weeks, I went from being unable to go further than 5 minutes to being able to sit 40 minutes doing this. So it does work, at least on a personal level. And yeah, I think I'll just, again, share some of my process with that. Was like, when I did have some of the pain that you were mentioning, like undulating and like breaking that for a moment, sometimes like lets you go back into that seat. And it is this thing that stretches over time and hopefully helps you be able to hold that seat that you're oftentimes unable to do in other practices. So again, thank you so much for that feedback.
Sunil? Hi.
Yes.
I meditate quite regularly and I don't actually suffer from pain. My takeaway from this, apart from the fact that you led it extremely well, was I thought it was really useful, the donkey thing that you said, because it just helped to open up the spine and I could feel myself connected immediately. And when I was sitting and I was doing rocking, as you said, and I kept reminding myself to do that. And the moment I remembered, I could feel the energy just shooting up.
Amazing. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have time for one more share, if anybody would like. The floor is yours, whoever takes it next.
Love that, Sunil. I
Thank
love the
you.
way you guided that exercise. And for me, I think the way in which you reiterated all those cues, I think, and kept circling back to them over and over, I felt it was really helpful in the syncing of like, I guess my experience was like the syncing of tissues in my body, and then I could really feel a very tangible expanse, like lengthening in my spine, almost as if the vertebrae were separating. And I think the way in which you led it, as Fiona was saying, and then I think reiterating those cues were very helpful for me in allowing to just focus on the experience of the lengthening in the spine. And then it wasn't so much about the sensation of what I was feeling. It was more of just about being with that lengthening feeling, you know. And I didn't
Totally.
really like that.
Very cool. Thank you, Jonathan.
you.
All right, with that, if there's any final or lingering comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. Before we wrap, I want to just share that I'll be teaching more classes like this focused on different aspects of the seat and different aspects of building foundational principles of your meditation practice. We'll go into some of the musculature of what we just went into. So like how to engage the pelvic diaphragm, how to engage those core muscles more actively, and then how that starts to create an energetic connection to the bandhas and what happens in your body as you start to hone and understand those in terms of sitting, as well as courses like breath and courses more specifically tailored to not just how to sit, but where to direct your attention during your meditative practice. And if you have any interest in joining one of those courses after I finish, I will leave my email in the chat. You're welcome to send an inquiry, and I'll let you know when the next courses are coming up. And also, I would love to, for those of you who do experience back pain, whether it's in seated practice or whether it's just in life walking around, I would love to hear how trying some of these can, how that goes for you. Do you notice any shifts as you start to engage these practices in your everyday life? And then the last thing I'd like to say before we come to completion is that this is also partly serving to launch a meditation circle I would like to be doing. And so on the Facebook group, I'm gonna put some information about that. And if you have a desire to join that, go ahead and comment on the Facebook group or put a like or love emoji. And I'm just kind of going to find out like what times work for people, who wants to engage, how regularly. And that one won't be guided in any ways. It'll be more philosophical, more having discussions around the philosophy of not just meditation, but spiritual practice, how to engage and practice certain techniques, as well as how to let energy process through your body and in your life, and we'll hold space for all of that. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time, and I hope to be hearing from you shortly.